I'm Ginny Larsen. I'm your women's director here at ROCKPOINT. Hey, today we're going to take a look at a passage from one of the Old Testament books that we rarely delve into, the book of Leviticus. Leviticus has a lot of rules in it and a lot of laws in it, and sometimes as a Christian, I wonder, why would God put that in the Bible? What does that have to do with me? But let's take a look at one from the book of Leviticus that does have great application for us in our Christian life. It's the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verses 9 through 10. Let me read it for you. When you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap to the very edges of your field or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Do not go over your vineyard a second time or pick up the grapes that have fallen. Leave them for the poor and the foreigner. I am the Lord your God. Well, what does that have to do with us today? We're not farmers, right? We don't usually go out and pick crops from fields and things like this. But there's a bigger principle here at stake that God wanted us to understand. It has to do with being able to trust God and creating space in our lives. Put yourself in the context of the people who lived in that day. They were hand-to-mouth farmers who had no refrigeration and very little storage. Their fields were very small, and yet God's telling them, you know, you don't have to go back over and pick up every single little piece that falls to the ground. You can leave some of that. Now that would have been hard to understand, because for them, trying to feed a family from a very small plot of land and from a very narrow area with no refrigeration would have meant going back and picking up every single grape, every single piece of wheat, every single crop that fell to the ground. But God's saying, don't do that. Why would he tell them that? And what does that mean for us today? Well, I believe God's telling them, you can trust me. You don't need to go over your field a second or a third time and worry about scarcity and not being able to provide for people, because like he says at the end here, I am the Lord your God. He says, be sure to leave enough for the people who don't have anything. Contribute to the poor, give to them, and trust me with the rest. And what does God tell us in the New Testament through Jesus about not needing to take everything to the limit, which is what we find here? Well, for the complementary passage in the New Testament, we go to Matthew chapter 6. Here's what that has to say. He says, do not worry, for what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, and what shall we wear? For the pagans run after all of these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. There it is again in the New Testament. We don't need to worry. We just do the best we can, and we don't need to go back over everything time and time again, worrying and wondering about how we're going to get what we need, because he is the Lord our God, and he will provide for us. I hope you see a little from the book of Leviticus today that can help you with your week, and then the New Testament from Matthew chapter 6. Thanks. Have a great week.